When you're putting out your book, Camouflage, if I was to ask you broad strokes, what's the theme of the book? What would you say it is?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest about it. No, look, I suppose it starts, well, it doesn't start at any particular point. It starts in September, the way it has it done, and it goes through my life from very young age to right now to what the future can hold.
And like, what's the first thing that comes to mind if someone says, what's the big thing in there?
Well, sure, I suppose, look, the big thing in there as came out in the Sunday Independent last week is, the depression thing, and I suppose, as I said to Pat when I was doing it, I wanted to do it, but I didn't really want to be that kind of keyboard warrior kind of a thing that, look at me, I had depression and want all the sympathy. It wasn't about that, and I wanted Pat to get that out there either.
That's Pat Nolan now from the Mirror, for those who don't know.
Sorry, Pat, that is probably the biggest thing that stands out mostly.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that in a couple of minutes. But I suppose the first thing, like, when you think of your days hurling for Kilkenny, the good days, what comes to mind? And there was plenty of them, obviously.
Yeah, look, I suppose the All-Irelands is obviously what comes to mind, but I suppose the most special one would have been 2012 as captain. It was something I always wanted to do as a young boy growing up. Something that I dreamed about doing, and thankfully I got to live that dream.
And when you think about the relationships that you would have had with players over the year, because you become such great friends, you're in each other's pockets several nights a week, what comes to mind in terms of who they are and the crack you would have had?
Yeah, well, sure, look, Jackie, obviously, Tommy, Taggy, Ed Fogarty, Michael Rice, Brian Hogan, just, I suppose the nights out and the days, the Monday after big matches were just brilliant, but also we had great holidays as well. We were lucky enough, we seen half the world, whereas I definitely wouldn't have seen most of the places we went anyway if they weren't after All-Irelands, but like, we were in some amazing places and had great times, and all the women gone very well as well, so we were always together, like,
I heard you had some awful sessions out at different parts of the world, and I heard one story about a bottle of vodka being thrown into a river. Is that right?
Yeah,
Could you tell us that one?
That was on an All-Star tour in, I think it was in San Francisco, and there was a couple of us going tailgate. We're going to an American football game.
You'll have to say who, will you?
There was a good few of us there now. Tommy Walsh, Richie Power were definitely there anyway, because it involved them. I couldn't tell you who else, but I know Brian Gavin was there as well.
Which explains a lot of other stuff, but anyway.
So, we were tailgating, went and got a bit of drink and went to the tailgate, which is a barbecue kind of before the game goes on. So we went up and we started running out of drink. So he said, geez lads, we may go here and get some more drinks. So we were half tanked at this stage. So up to the supermarket we went anyway, and went in another couple of slabs of Coors Light, and Tommy picked up a bottle of vodka and Richie Power picked up a bottle of vodka. So we were walking back anyway. Tommy was loaded, so I just got something into his head then, lads, we've too much drink here. Next thing the bottle was gone. We were walking over a bridge, next thing the bottle was gone, winged over the bridge. Well, I'd never seen Richie Power to get us taken on. What are you doing? What are you doing? So, sure enough anyway, Richie was down on Tommy for the next 20 minutes, half an hour. So about another hour passed anyway, the drink was running low again, the vodka was gone, and Tommy, I told you, Tommy, we'd want that. So Tommy will have an awful habit when he gets loaded then just to, slips off into the distance, home, away you go. So Tommy was gone anyway. I said, Tommy has probably gone to bed, Next thing, about 5 minutes later, Tommy comes back, 2 more bottles.
Ah, that's the stuff.
And I never seen Richie Power's face just lit up. It was unbelievable.
But what is it about, you used, so your surname is Larkin, but you used to winter in a chipper called Larkins as well. You'd have been a regular punter in there, probably paying off their bills for them.
Yeah.
Would you be putting on a nice bit of timber over the winter in there?
Well, I used to say around 2006, 2007, I would have spent quite a bit of time in Larkin's chipper. And well, that's not to say Jackie spent a bit of time in there as well.
You wouldn't fit into skinny jeans if that was the case.
No, there weren't skinny jeans back then though. But after that, you couldn't. Winter and well was gone, kind of. Everybody started looking after themselves, and even on holidays, you see lads in the gym. And don't get me wrong, you still enjoy the holiday and you'd eat what you wanted to eat, but lads were going for runs and lads were going to the gym during the holidays, and the winter and well thing it was just brushed by the wayside.
When people talk about the epic training sessions you would have had in Nolan Park, and there's always the talk of there's a couple that are mentioned. The one in 2010 when there was maybe 5,000 people there, you know, and there was all the talk for Drive for Five. But 2008, even Derek McGrath has talked about this. He went down. You know, he was a Waterford supporter at the time. He went down and he watched you tear lumps out of each other, and he just thought Waterford won't have a hope last week. Like, how high quality were they?
I'm sure they were unbelievable quality, and I suppose it's hard when you're inside in the game to realise what quality is there. But like when you go in off the field and you're just drained and you have to there's no one talking and you're kind of just trying to catch your breath there. That's when you know it's really intense and all that kind of stuff. And you know, Brian would have always said, you know, we have to taste here what we taste in Croke Park, and you know, between those times, I think, you know, we probably surpassed what we tasted in Croke Park to some degree. But like there were, I don't know whether the quality was huge, but often, like Peter Barry would have always said, you know, scrappy games and training is when you know you're going well. I'd say probably that was the key to it. You know, they were real scrappy. They were frantic. There was, you know, tackles flying in. You didn't get a minute on the ball, and I think that's what stood us in good stead.
Was it A versus B, or were they balanced enough teams?
Sometimes it would be A versus B, and sometimes then they were balanced. But like, to be fair, the panel we had at that time, you know, no matter what it was, they were going to be balanced anyway. Yeah. Now there would be often changes, and you know, Martin Forty would have been there changing one or two things at different times as well. So, but they were very well balanced kind of games. And
like, things must have gotten a bit heated at times. There must have been a few flakes here and there.
Yeah, but there was plenty of flakes. But like, you just got on with it. You had no choice but to get on with it. And if you weren't getting on with it, you were told to get on with it. You know. So, but like, I think the great thing about it was, you know, we thundered into each other. You know, there was huge challenges. But as soon as the whistle went and we went into the dressing room, it was all forgotten.
But there was one story in your book which comes back to Tommy Walsh again. He's featuring heavily here, where he probably stepped over the line when you were kind of having a little kerfuffle with his brother Pádraig, who's probably quite young at the time. Yeah. Maybe that's what ticked Tommy off. Can you tell us about that?
Probably, yeah. But like that was further on again. So I can't remember.
What was it, around 11, 2011 or 12?
12 maybe. But I have something in my head about 14. I don't know why. It was before the All Ireland anyway, and Walter Welsh was after hitting me a shoulder, and I was kind of dazed after the shoulder, and Pádraig was just there, and I just grabbed him in a headlock and we fell to the ground, and my helmet came off, and I turned, and all I could hear was Jackie Tyrrell just screaming, "Tommy, don't do it!" And next thing I got booted in the face. And so I got up like kind of half dazed. I had the hurl in my hand and I was swinging the hurl around, and poor Matthew then was trying to break it up, and he got a clatter of hurl, and then there was more lads pulling Tommy away. I was losing the rag then, and I said, you know, this shit, and I came out of here. And I was walking down off the field, and Cody lets a roar, "Come back!" And I said, "No, I'm not hanging around for this shit." And he said, "Come back!" So I eventually said, "What, you want me to hang around for this shit? Just come back," he said, "come back." So I can't even remember what he said because I was so thick like. But training finished anyway, and we went into the dressing room. Usually, you know, you'd be all chatting in the dressing room and you'd be in for an ice bath and in for a shower. I just grabbed my gear, no shower, no none, out the door. And I walked into the house anyway, and Anne was doing something. She was gone off, and Anne's mother had the kids. She was minding the kids. And I walked in, had a big mark on my face. And she said to me, "Oh, Jesus, what happened to your face?" I said, "I got an old belt in training." So I had just brushed it under the table like that. And she went off anyway, and I jumped into the shower, got out of the shower, and the doorbell rang. And Mark, my son, was in there, and he went out and got the door, and I could hear it was Tommy at the door. Now, I hadn't said that to Mark, and Tommy says, "Is your father there?" "No, he's not back yet," says Mark. Knowing that I was sitting right beside him, like, so it was like I was after telling him, go out and tell him. Yeah. So I ran out to the door anyway, and I told Mark to go in, and Tommy says, "Jesus," Mark said, "I don't know what happened." He said, "You know, I just seen red. I'm so sorry." I said, "Yeah, grand." Banged the door in his face. And then I went into the sitting room, and I calmed down then a small bit. And Anne came in then, and she had the same reaction as her mother. "Jesus, what happened to her face?" And I said, "I got a belt and training." So I calmed down then a small bit, and I picked up the phone and I texted him. I said, "Look," I said, "you made a mistake." I said, "It takes a bigger man to come up and apologise. We'll forget about it now and drive it on." So there was nothing ever said about it after that.
No slagging in the dressing room after?
There was a bit of slagging, like, but there was no kind of animosity or anything like that. But I went into work the following day and same question again. Jeez, what happened to your face? Got a belt and train. This went on anyway, but got a phone call then off Anne around 10:30. She said, well, and I said, well, what's up? And I said, or she said, nothing, have you anything to tell me? And I said, oh, why? And she said, what happened to your face? And I said, I told you last night I got a belt and train. And she said, oh, my release is after ringing me. Tommy's in an office there over it. So Tommy was after going home and telling Marlies, you won't believe what I'm after doing. And she was after ringing Anne to tell her. So, but like, we're still friends anyway.
Yeah, which these things happen in hurling.
Yeah, they do, like, and you just have to get over it. Like, I was thick at the time, obviously. But like a couple of hours later, I calmed down and we got over it. And I genuinely think it probably galvanised us as well. You know, as a team, that I was able to kind of forget about and get over it.
Sure, the blood is up and you've weapons in your hand. Sure,
exactly.
Something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
I've heard a story that you, for a while, started making your own hurleys. Is that true?
Yeah, for a while. Didn't really work out.
Yeah, I heard you brought him into the dressing room and Cody put you in your place over them. Is that true?
Well, I started using them myself, and I think we were after playing Galway in a Leinster final, and I was after mishitting about 4 balls. I think I could have scored 1 or 2 points, and he said to me in the Crown Plaza after, he said, "Many balls just drop short?" And I said, maybe about 3 or 4. And he said, you could have had 5 points. He said, get rid of them hurls now. I said, go back to the old one.
I'd say he's never shy of telling you something if he's like
if he thinks it's the right thing to do, he'll tell you. But like, I got rid of him and went back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Would you have known him since like primary school? Did you go to his school?
Yeah, he taught me in primary school.
Yeah. So for some people, they would have kind of built up in underage hurlers, hoping to get senior someday, and all of a sudden, well, this is finally what it's like with Cody. Whereas you knew him the whole way up along.
I knew what he was about. Like, obviously, it's different when he's with Kilkenny, but I kind of knew what he was like in school, and it's kind of like that to a certain degree as well. Not the same, obviously, but to a certain degree, it's kind of the same.
And do you think you had a slightly different dynamic with him because you knew him since you were a kid than other lads who came in once they hit the senior panel?
Probably, yeah, because I knew what to expect, and other lads are kind of going in and they're after hearing all this thing in the media, and you know, from Kilkenny people and from former players and all this kind of stuff. So they're kind of going in with it. I'm going to stay well away here.
Yeah.
But like, to be fair, he's very open, very honest, and you know, if you have a problem at all, you know, anything he can do to help you will.
It's a recurrent question that you hear when players retire from Kilkenny. What was the meeting like with Cody afterwards? Was it? I presume it was short enough, sort of a discussion.
Well, to be fair, like it was a discussion we had a couple of weeks previous, and I was starting a new job and all that kind of stuff. And he said, "Look, we'll do whatever we can. We'll talk to Mick and see." You know, it was probably going to be difficult because I was starting a new job with Pfizer. It was going to be shift work and all that kind of stuff. And I was just trying to see, you know, could I do it and all that. And then just one day it just came to me, you know, I just have enough of this and I'm not going to be able to do it. And you know, and I rang him and it was probably, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute. But like, I was after having a good conversation with him before that.
Yeah.
Probably half an hour, 3/4 of an hour as well. So, but like the conversation on the phone was, you know, fairly limited. And, you know, I just got my point across, and in fairness to him, he just turned around and said, you know, you've had a great career. He said, and, you know, you'll find out when you announce it what people thought of you.
What was your last game for Kilkenny?
All-Ireland in 2016. 2016.
Probably like, I know how it'll sound coming from a Tipperary man, but obviously a disappointing way to finish it up.
Yeah, absolutely. It was devastating to a way, or to a point, but like from what I was after going through earlier on in the year, it was devastating, but I still had the perspective that it was only a hurling game as well. And I always remember a conversation I had with Killian Buckley's girlfriend in the players' lounge after it, and I said, I just went up to her, I said, how's the other lad? And she said, oh, he's in bits, he won't even talk to me, like, you know. And I said, let that, you know, he'll get over it. I said, that was his first loss, you know, in an All-Ireland final. And I said, he'll get over it. I said, just, you know, just try and be there and don't take it to heart. But like, that would have been me 6 or 7 years previous to that as well. You know, I'd have been devastated over that. No, I was devastated, but I just still had perspective on it as well.
When you think of bad days playing hurling, whether it's Kilkenny or James Stephens, what comes to mind as, you know, kind of the real low point playing?
Obviously 2010 for obvious reasons. It would have been nice to try and get the 5 in a row.
I disagree.
Yeah, well, you would. And then a couple of county final losses, I suppose, 2008, 9. They were hard to take as well, because Phil kind of didn't play to our potential as well. And then the 2006 All-Ireland Club semi-final against Portumna, we never got going at all in that. And those kind of days, but like, I suppose sport is great that you always get another day to try and rectify it, and hopefully this Sunday now will be another day to kind of rectify those losses as well.
The county final, yeah. What about the rivalries that you had? There's a quote in your book saying Cork, to us they were full of shit. So in broad terms, what are you referring to there?
Well, look, I think I spoke about in the book as well, them getting the stuff embroidered on their togs and all that kind of stuff, and strikes and all this kind of stuff, towels waiting for them and their gear waiting for them and all that. Like, none of that stuff ever mattered to us. All we wanted to do was go out and hurl, and like it was like they just wanted controversy after controversy, and like we could never understand it. And I remember I wasn't part of the panel at the time. I remember Brian referencing, or not Brian, one of the other players referenced what Brian was after saying. The Cork lads were after coming up with this thing that they were going to wear the socks up or something in a parade.
And that was the GPA like thing.
Yeah. And Brian just said, under no circumstances you won't be out in the field if that's happening. This was about hurling, and if you want to hurl for Kilkenny, you have to act correctly.
When you hear like stuff like the Stepford Wives been said about Kilkenny, did that kind of even deepen kind of the ignominy between you?
Like, it couldn't be further from the truth. Like, we just wanted to do the best we could on the field and have great crack off it. And like, to be fair, that's what we done.
Like, when you talk, the rivalry with Tipperary, I suppose during your career would probably be a bit more high octane in terms of the games themselves. Like, there were some unbelievable games.
Yeah, well, it was all to do with hurling. The rivalry with Kilkenny and Tipperary was all to do with hurling. There was no sideshows, or there was no bullshit or anything like that. It was all to do with the games, and the games are so full of great hurling, physical battles, all that kind of stuff. All the good things about hurling, I think.
They were unreal to watch, really.
And they were unreal to be involved in as well. And you knew you had to be at your best, and I'm sure the Tipperary players knew that as well. If you were going to win, and like, to be involved in them games and to be able to look back at those games is unreal.
Because in different parts of the book you say we had no real kind of issues with them, we could take or leave them, and then there was a reference to Declan Fanning that he probably was, as far, from your point of view anyway, doing a bit of mountain, so you didn't have a great time for him.
Well, look, it wasn't, I never had any kind of real bad dealings with him, but I just remember the time Gorta came on in a league final, and the yellow card thing was at the sin bin thing was after coming in. He was only after walking onto the pitch, and he was gone back off. And, it was look, he was just trying to get an edge, but like, I never had any real issue with him. But he was the one probably that would more than likely be doing a little bit of mountain. Yeah,
and then of course the Paddy Maher incident, a one-handed swing at a hurley, and it obviously badly injured Michael Rice in the hand. That definitely is something that left a stain, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, like, we definitely felt that was just a reckless pull, like, and to be fair, it was a one-handed pull, and like, Michael struggled for years after with it, and we would have felt that, it didn't. I suppose if the referee had to deal with it at the time, it probably would have been put to bed and kind of move on. But we just felt that it was a reckless pull, and Michael Rice was after going through, I suppose, hardship with fingers before that, and then obviously knees and everything. So I suppose it was the fact that it was on him then as well probably left another kind of a stain.
I did a panel with Eddie Brennan before, and you may or may not remember this, because I'm only dropping it on you now, but he said that the one player that he ever heard Brian Cody pinpoint in a team talk beforehand was Paddy Maher. Now, this was after 2010, he played great in the final, that you couldn't have him bursting out and barreling out in the 2011 final. Do you remember that? And
yeah, I do, and like, Eddie wasn't after being playing all year. He was after being dropped that year, and actually the All-Ireland was the only game he played in, specifically to mark Paddy Maher, and he was given that job for the day, and done it brilliantly. Like, Brian obviously pinpointed that Tipperary got a lift every time Paddy Maher grabbed the ball and burst forward, and clearance over the shoulder. You know, Tipperary lifted everything about Tipperary, and he pinpointed that we needed to stop that, and thought Eddie could do it. And in fairness to Eddie, he was switched on that day after, you know, probably a disappointing year for himself. To be picked for an All-Ireland was unbelievable, and to be given that trust.
It's strange though that's the only, like, after that, did he ever pinpoint any other players? Because that really kind of struck a nerve.
Yeah, no, I can't ever remember him kind of pinpointing anyone else, to be honest about, especially in their backs. But maybe in a kind of, I suppose, other teams forwards, you'd obviously pinpoint someone, but definitely not in the backs. So I can't ever remember that happening again.
I'll paraphrase Jackie Tyrrell by saying Tip don't have the balls when it comes down to it. Is that something? Is that an opinion you shared?
I would share it to an extent with Kilkenny. You know, I think there is a bit of fear there with, you know, when they see Kilkenny in an All-Ireland final or a semi-final. I think if it's a close game, they start to wobble a small bit. Now, obviously, it wasn't a close game in this year in the All-Ireland final.
Or 16 or 10.
For obviously, yeah. Well, there you go. And they're the ones that won. But I think if it is a close game coming down the wire, I think they do start to wobble.
And what do you think that's down to?
I don't know. Maybe it's down to 09 because they thought they had it won and we snatched it back.
Jimmy Kerwin helped you there.
No, I wouldn't say that. Look, if you were to go back over every refereeing decision, we'd be here for the night.
Well, you mentioned Brian Gavin earlier.
Yeah, look, I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe they don't wobble. But I just feel, you know, if it's tight coming down the stretch, we have to measure it.
Right. So just moving on to 2016, I just lifted a quote out of your book that I'll read out, and just it's more to do with the contrast of kind of your place in the dressing room at the start versus the end of the career when you get a little bit older. So you said the dynamic within the Kilkenny panel had changed for me at that stage. On any team, faces come and go, and most of the ones that I was closely associated with were gone by then. Brian Hogan, David Herty, JJ Taggy, Tommy Henry. Jackie was still there, but he had his own stuff going on that year between shaking off injury and trying to get back in the team. Now, I had no personal issues with anyone on the panel, but outside of Jackie, none of them would have been close friends of mine per se. There was a bit of a generation gap. So was that something you struggled to adjust to?
I wouldn't say I struggled to adjust to, but you know, I suppose I wouldn't have been as friendly. You know, I wouldn't have picked up the phone and had a chat with any of them like I would with the rest of the lads. You know, I wouldn't have organised away from hurling to do something, whereas I would probably with the rest of the lads. And you know, my wife and their girlfriends or wives were all friends, so we'd often do things. And you know, we had the thing about Valentine's night with Tommy and Marlies that we, you know, that's kind of a tradition that we do. I wouldn't have done that with anybody else either.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. So, and I think those lads were young, like, and I was in my early 30s and they were, you know, early 20s, mid 20s.
There's a generation gap there.
Yeah, it was a generation gap, and it was just something I had to accept.
Their crack is no longer, like the crack you used to be it, but what is it has changed.
Yeah, well, obviously, look, their crack, I wouldn't really see as crack.
Yeah.
Or, you know, what I wanted to do, they didn't really see as good crack either. So
you're probably a bit like a stranger in your own dressing room.
Yeah, I was to an extent. Like, it was grand in the dressing room. It was kind of outside of the dressing room.
Yeah.
With all the stuff going on, and I was kind of lost. Like, you know?
Can you tell me then about so we mentioned at the start about depression coming on you. When did when did you first feel that, even if you can't identify it, but when did you first feel
I'd say it was about 2009, maybe 2010, in or around there, but like, obviously I didn't realise what it was. I wasn't willing to accept what it was.
Now, this is like a time when your pockets are bulging with medals and everyone should think you're on top of the world.
Yeah, well, sure, I should be on top of the world, or everyone should think I'm on top of the world, because I have everything going for me. I'm on one of the best teams going. You know, I've
probably 100 year in 08.
100 year in 08. I've probably 4 All-Irelands at that stage, 5 maybe. And you know, I'm doing what I dreamt of doing all my life. And I have a great family behind me and all that kind of stuff. You know, you should be on top of the world, but it doesn't always work out like that. You know, if you're not happy in yourself, you know, all those material things don't really matter. But Anne would have always been on to me. Like, she obviously seen the signs, and she would have always been on to me, I'm depressed, or you're depressed, and all this kind of stuff. Go to the doctor, you need to go to the doctor. And I always associate depression with that doesn't happen to me. It happens to somebody else, or happens to the lad down the road, or you know, he must have been very bad, or something like that, you know. And that kept going and going and going and going for years, and that kept going on to me. And eventually, I think around maybe 2011, maybe, or in around then, maybe 2012, I eventually just went to the doctor just to show her up.
Yeah.
You know, not buying in myself or not admitting anything or anything like that, just to get her off my back. And the doctor, went to the doctor, and he prescribed me a bit of medication, took it for a little while, thrown it away, end of story, not going back there again, definitely not accepting that. And then I went to Syria, and it just kept going. I went to Syria, came back in 2016, had a bit of a tough time after Christmas out there. You know, still not accepting that, but
tough time in what way?
Yeah, just feeling crap, like, you know, just wanted to be home, kind of few panic attacks and things like that.
Really chest tightening?
Yeah, I just need to get out here, like, you know, I need to be home. You know, thinking that me going home is going to solve everything, like. Then got home, went back with Kilkenny, and the Dublin game comes around, thinking I'm flying, get taken off early in the second half. Should have been taken off a lot earlier, way off the pace. And then, you know, when you're over 32 or over 30, and probably, I think it was about 32, yeah, and you get taken off, all you can hear is people, oh, he's gone, he's finished, that's the end of it. Walk of shame out. And that's all I could think of. You know, it wasn't that I was after playing bad, or, you know, I had something wrong with me or anything like that. It was everybody else's thoughts, worrying about what everybody else thought. So a night of drinking then, and following day of drinking, and then in a depressional state then for the rest of the week, and get back to training. You know, you kind of promise yourself that's not going to happen again now if I get picked for the Leinster final. Get picked for the Leinster final, withdrawn at half time, worse than the Dublin game.
Right.
And then everything just goes out the window. You know, drinking again, Monday again, and I'm in bed for the week. Don't go training on Tuesday night, we have a club game on Friday night. Don't even have the guts to pick up the phone and tell the manager I'm not coming, text one of the selectors, which is not me, you know what I mean?
Well, even by doing that and not confronting the main man, that's you yourself.
Yeah, it's just an excuse to get away, you know? So, in bed all week, close the curtains, pull the covers up, just don't want to be near anyone.
Yeah.
And Friday night, gets up, goes to the game, just zone out, didn't want to be there. You know, just went through the game, something happened in the game, I told managers to go
F off.
myself, and which is not like me either. You know, I can get frustrated and things like that, and things aren't working, but it's not me, like, you know. But like, even before the game, just sat there, just no interest in the game, no interest in doing anything in the game, and going no shower, out the door after the match, and then didn't even have the stomach to go for a few pints to try and make myself feel a bit better. Go to bed, sleep, get up Saturday morning, and the phone rings. And I'm looking at the phone here for the pause 20 or 30 seconds, and Brian Cody is there.
And he's a selector at the time, isn't he?
He's a selector on the village team,
yeah,
and obviously Kilkenny manager. And I'm saying, I know what's coming.
Yeah.
I know what's coming, and I'm wondering, do I answer this? Eventually, I answered, and he says, well, how are you feeling this morning? And that was it. God, tears. I was in convulsions, crying. And I couldn't have a conversation. I wasn't having a conversation. He was doing all the talking because I couldn't talk.
Was he trying to console you?
No, he was just, you know, how are you feeling this morning? I couldn't talk, and he said, look, there's obviously something wrong. He said, if you want to tell me I'm here, if you want to go to Tay, I think you should go in and have a chat to Tay. If you don't want me knowing, I'll stay right out of it. He said, if you just want it between yourself and Tay, that's fine too, he said, but just go in and talk to Tay. And like, the conversation could have lasted maybe, as I say in the book, it wasn't really a conversation, but the phone call lasted maybe about 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe. I don't know how long it lasted, but like, I know Anne probably 20 years, and she's only seen me cry twice, and that was one of them. She walked in and her face kind of looked like streams of tears coming out. And that's how it started. I went in and came in with me to Tig. She done all the talking. Because I still couldn't talk. I was just.
And Tig is
team doctor, Tig Crowley. And she was doing all the talking, and then Tig asked me a couple of questions, and I kind of blurted out a couple of answers, and and that's how it started. He prescribed a couple of tablets to take the edge off for a couple of days.
Are these similar tablets that you'd had several years beforehand?
Yeah. And my mother and father came out that night, and was obviously after being in contact. But like my father was of the impression, I got that impression of just grab a hold of yourself, will you? Cop yourself on. But it's not like that. Like, you can't just grab a hold of yourself and cop yourself on. And to be fair, that was the turning point.
It seems like of all the people for you to kind of finally let it out to, it just seems so odd from everything we know and don't know about Brian Cody that this is the man it happened with.
Yeah.
Is it?
But like, it was just a simple question. It could have been. As it turned out, it was Brian Cody who rang. But if Niall Turner had to ring and say, "Look, that wasn't really like you last night. Are you all right?"
Yeah.
It probably would have been him. But it was just the fact that he picked up the phone and asked that question.
Yeah, because like something that when I read it in the book, I was thinking, sometimes it's easier to tell your feelings to a complete stranger than it is to someone you know. So I thought maybe there was an element to that, but it just so happened that he was the person who asked you the right question.
Yeah, at the right time, I suppose.
Yeah. And like, how have you been since?
Yeah, I'm good. Like, as I say in the book, I was on an upward curve then, and then obviously you reach a plateau because you obviously can't go or you just hit the moon. But like, I'm good, but like, sometimes I can miss a couple of days, and then you start kind of feeling down a bit, and then the trigger goes, oh, you're after missing, so I have a bit of a routine now. I just take the tablet before I go into work, and if I have to take a tablet for the rest of my life, who cares? You don't need to be feeling like that if you don't have to. I'm happy enough with myself that I can accept that.
Great stuff, Owen, and best of luck with the book.
Perfect. Thanks.
Cheers.